Good morning. Earlier this year, I drove down to Los Angeles, California, and my sister-in-law lost her mind that I was going to drive there by myself. I tried to reassure her. I said, Renee, for Pete's sake, I have made reservations. I'm going to stay at Murder Me Mountain and Stab Me State Park, and then Lost and Never Seen Again Lake. Don't worry, it'll be fine. She doesn't understand. I lived in the Seattle-Tacoma area on my own, off and on, for 25 years, so I wasn't really afraid to drive to LA. I had a great trip. Got to do one of my bucket list items, which was go to the La Brea tar pits. If you've not heard of it, they're not really full of tar at all. It's actually asphalt. And it's in a very seismic region in California, way too much geology to talk about, but the tar bubbles up from the earth, asphalt. They call it tar. I'm gonna call it tar, it's easier. And what has happened over time is animals get stuck in the tar. About the last 50,000 years or so worth of history is recorded by the animals that have gotten stuck, and then the predator animals that have come to eat the animals that got stuck. And there is an amazing fossil record in downtown LA that everybody should see. And I'm going to describe to you 3 aspects of the land, the museum, and the ongoing archaeology that's still happening to this day. The land was donated to the city of to the county actually of LA, because the owner realized not until around the early 1900s that the bones that they had seen in this area weren't just domestic livestock remains, they were actually ancient fossil records of mammoths and mastodons and wolves and saber-toothed cats and extinct birds and all kinds of things right there in the heart of LA. And in the early 1900s, he wanted to preserve these. His name was, I had to write that part down, George Allen Hancock. And he donated 23 acres to the county to make sure that it got preserved, but it had to be preserved as a park. Later in time, a museum was built to exhibit the fossils that they'd found. They have found 3.5 million fossils, and they're asphalted together in these giant asphalt jumbles, they're called. And the record is phenomenal. They've uncovered over 400 dire wolf skeletons, which are an extinct wolf. There's coyotes, there's all kinds of predator animals, and the largest fossil collection in the world. And the largest fossil collection of birds. Bird fossils don't keep well, but because of the asphalt trapping the hollow bones, they were able to find complete, entire skeletons of birds, about 140 species, 23 of which are now extinct. So, upon encountering the land right there amongst all the buildings and the grandeur of LA, the outside part is free, and there are pits of tar bubbling up. There's fences around them to keep the morons from falling in, because they didn't want to have to build a moron exhibit next to the mammoths and mastodons. This is actually true. There were bridges crossing them and people would fall in. Ridiculous. There are models and sculptures, so sorry, big, huge, life-size representations of the animals that they've found, and it's very, very interesting. Transitioning to the inside of the museum, they have, again, entire skeletons, displays, movies you can watch. It's fascinating. The fossil record is about 50,000 years ago and on. Nothing dinosaur-like or anything like that. That was way, way, way before that. And at that time, the LA basin was covered in water, Pacific Ocean. And that's actually what led to the asphalt being there in the first place, the sediments, blah, 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 geology. It's fun. At any rate, you can see all of these things right up close and personal. And then the further if you want to get involved further, then you can actually see archaeology in action. They are dismantling these huge asphalt jumbles, and you can watch them doing it right there in their labs in front of a window of glass. You can really get a really good bird's eye view of what's going on in the area. The museum. So they built the museum in about the 70s. And so the land itself now encompasses a free park where you can go and look at these things for free, spend the day, have a picnic. It's a really beautiful part of the city. And for $15, you can go into the museum. It's a very low price. You can absorb things it's Flintstones kind of stuff, for sure. And then the archaeology, you can really watch how these things are preserved, discovered, the people themselves that get to do it. It's a fascinating place to go. Now, leaving there, completing one of the things I've always wanted to do, such a great day, come back to my friend's house in LA, pull onto her street, police cars everywhere, caution tape tied to her husband's truck across the road, find out there's been a shooting right there. There'd been somebody laying in ambush, in wait, and had shot somebody going down the street. So as soon as the cops finished checking my truck for bullets, I packed my stuff and drove right back here to boring Walla Walla and checked that one off the list, and I was done. A memorable ending to the story, but it was sure a memorable ending to the trip. Thank you very much.